What's up? It's me back again, Analog Attack. How you doing? Welcome to episode 15 of Piece of Maiden. Morning, Chris.
Yeah, well, it's morning for me
It
finally.
is. We've role reversal. It's Saturday night here.
Yep.
Saturday night fever in Osaka, and no prayer for the dying.
You ready to rock?
I am actually. I am. People might be surprised with my thoughts on this record. We'll get to that. 1990. Let's have a look at it. Let's show it a little bit. What you got? Original, US original.
Yeah, this is on Epic. So that would be the US pressing, I think.
Red vinyl, right?
Nice. Red vinyl, yeah.
I used to have one of
That's
those.
odd.
Got rid of
Oh,
it in a
really?
moment of madness. Now I've got the older, well, the new actually, the Parlophone.
That's like your favorite reissue campaign
My
of all
favorite
time.
record label in the world, Parlophone. Yeah,
Uh,
you know, mine's really glossy. Is yours glossy?
no. It is. Yeah, I don't know. It's like a pretty standard record jacket.
All right, you know,
You would
it's
find in the early
not
90s.
puffy, pretty standard looking.
Is it just a single sleeve or does it fold out?
No, just single sleeve with I believe the original.
Well, mine's in black and white.
Oh, there
You
you
really
go.
see how short Bruce is here. I don't know why. Something about like the pants he's wearing or something look different.
No spandex in sight.
Yeah, no, they look very mature, very street level.
Back to basics.
Won't be the last time we say street level.
Okay, so 1990, as usual. Got to ask you, what were you up to in the year of 1990? Good year for me.
I was 9, third grade, fourth grade.
There you go.
Yeah, good year for me too, actually. Probably for different reasons.
Yeah, I took my first trip to Japan ever in 1990. July and August.
Did you see some bands?
Did actually. We might go off on a big tangent if I start talking about that, but I did see Lip Cream and Death Side and Bastard and a few others.
All the greats.
Pretty good. Yeah. But 1990, the world of heavy metal. I mean, I wasn't listening to any heavy metal really in 1990. Only hardcore, pretty much. But I do remember Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter being on the TV, on the radio a lot in 1990.
Top 10 song.
It went to number one. It went to number one in the UK without any radio play. It was banned, I think. They didn't play it.
You know, it's a questionable message.
Yeah. So, as usual, let's have a look at the year in heavy metal, 1990.
Yeah, what do you got?
Wow, it's not bad actually. First, I'm gonna reel off some of the ones that I don't have, but I think should be mentioned.
Okay.
AC/DC, The Razor's Edge.
Yeah, that's a big one for that year.
Yeah, I don't have a copy of that. Anthrax, Persistence of Time.
Yep.
Benediction, Subconscious Terror. Black Sabbath, Tire. Pretty good.
I mean, I could have grabbed it, you know.
It's okay. Celtic Frost. I thought I had Celtic Frost, Vanity Nemesis, Danzig 2, Lucifuge, Death Angel, Act 3, Deicide, Destruction, Cracked Brain, Bruce Dickinson, Tattooed Millionaire.
Yeah, that figures into this story a little bit.
Man, you know what? I bought a copy of that on vinyl for 100 yen about 12 years ago. Don't have it anymore. Dio, Lock Up the Wolves. Helmet, Strap It On. Jane's Addiction. Ritual de la Habitual.
That's a big one.
Yeah, right. King Diamond, The Eye. Nocturnus, The Key.
All right.
Yeah, now let's look at the ones I do have. So,
Okay.
Bathory.
Hammerheart.
Hammerheart. Splendid record. I think you're still on board with Death at this point, right?
sort of when I'm getting off the bus, but that's an important record. That's a big record for that
Yeah,
year.
love this record. Love the artwork.
Weird. I always think of it as 80s, but yeah, I guess it is 1990.
Well, last time we were talking about the blues. This is kind of blue, and the next one's kind of blue as well. Actually,
Yeah.
Entombed,
Ah, yes. The landmark.
landmark, left-hand path. This is blue as well. What's going on? It's kind of blue. Judas Priest,
Uh,
Painkiller.
Now I think that we have to talk about that in this episode a little
Okay,
bit.
all
I
right.
think it's sort of well, they keep coming up in the 80s.
Yeah,
Priest and Maiden, there's a comparison to be made, but this one especially. Okay.
good point. Creator, Coma of Souls came out. This one's blue as well. Here we go. Megadeth, Rust in Peace. You like
Very topical in the news lately.
Yeah, yeah. Here's one we talked about before, actually. Back with a vengeance. Morbid Saint.
Now that is a record.
A little bit like Eddie on the cover.
That's a little copyright infringement too.
Yeah, right. Oh, here we go. A record we both love, I think. Harmony
Yes.
Corruption.
Have you got the live bonus record with that?
Nah, sorry, I don't.
Okay.
Used to back in the day. I don't know. This is on the list. Don't know if it's relevant. Neurosis, the wordless law.
I think that fits. I
Right.
think we need to know what's going on in the American underground.
So this is kind of blue as well. It's weird, like Obituary,
Yeah.
Cause of Death, and blue again. Pusshead artwork, Prong, Beg to Differ. Doesn't this look a bit like Blaze Bailey on the on the cover?
Especially on it's the left that I'm looking at here,
Yeah.
which I think would make it your right side.
Yeah,
The character there.
I think
Yeah.
it's this guy though, right? But it looks like
Well,
Blaze.
and the Puss Man has taken some artistic license.
Yeah. Doom, UK, Paradise Lost, first album.
Yeah.
Back to America, Suicidal Tendencies, Lights, Camera Revolution.
That movie marquee is still there in LA, folks.
Oh wow, man, you can't bring me down.
And nor can you.
You will not bring me down. Slayer, Seasons of the Abyss.
Yep.
And I've got to finish up with this one, which might be the best record of the year.
Oh yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, hard to argue that.
Right. So, pretty good year. I wasn't expecting much, but a lot of good records again. 1990.
A transitional time though, I think we established through that spread of records.
Exactly. A lot going on. That was 1990. So let's have a look at the album, Chris. What do you make of the looks? What are you thinking?
I'm sorry. Well,
I like the concept of it, but I just don't think it's very well executed.
I mean, yeah, so it's supposed to be like Eddie reborn coming out of the crypt.
Yeah.
He's got his old hair back. He's got his torn up shirt back.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's just like, it's not very well drawn.
this guy looks weird for the cover of a Maiden record.
What, isn't it supposed to be, it's not Rod, it's not Rod Smallwood, is it?
Oh, it could be.
Hmm.
His expression is so twisted. It's a little bit hard to say. It
But-
just I don't know. You know what it actually is? It looks like it was painted kind of small, because if you look at it, you
Mm.
can really see the brush strokes here.
Yeah.
And you can almost see the texture of what I presume is canvas on a lot of this, which makes me think like it reminds me of that last Gauze record where the cover is actually painted this big and then they shot
Yeah. I don't know. I like the idea of it, but there's some kind of inconsistencies with the colors as well. The kind of black and white and grey parts and the color parts kind of don't kind of match up in some.
It is very blue though.
It is
You
blue,
know,
but not a
very.
nice blue. It's not like Seventh Sun. It's not a pleasing blue. Um,
It's a spooky blue. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely it's not a classic cover.
no, it's
Um,
definitely the worst of the first eight. I, I would
yeah, I would agree.
say.
And
Nice
we just have this
photography.
picture of the guys on the back introducing Yannick over here,
There he is.
introducing Bruce's 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah, looks so young.
Yeah,
Yeah,
still
so
full
not the
head of
best
hair.
looking. It's not really bad, but it's not really great either. But,
Yeah, it could be worse.
it could be worse. Yeah.
But that I think that carries over into the album itself. Uh, it's it's not the worst. It's okay, but it could be worse. But it's certainly the least of the first eight.
Yeah, well, you can't really talk about this album without kind of comparing it to what has come before, but the bar has been set so high with the previous seven. And the difficult eighth album. Have you thought about the eighth album? Any other eighth albums? Famous eighth albums?
Never Say Die
Yeah,
would be one.
I got a few actually.
Oh, you got a few. All
I
right,
just
let's go.
I just plucked out a few.
I bet. Yeah.
Never say die. There you go. You had that one. Oh, you like this one, right? Motorhead, rock and roll.
I like that album, but actually I would almost say that's like a return to form for them
I
because
It's almost you could make some similarities with No Prayer, maybe.
I think so.
Back to basics a little bit. Judas Priest, just talking about them.
Yeah. No, that's a good eighth album.
The eighth album, yeah. Uh, Thin Lizzy, bad
Another good
repetition,
eighth
but
album, but also fraught with problems.
yeah.
Recorders a three-piece.
UFO,
Yep.
No Place to Run. It's the eighth album, and then another Blue album. There you go. Scorpions,
That's an eighth album.
Black. Oh man, I love this record. So a difficult eighth album. What, 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 what's your sort of relationship with this album, Chris? Because I used to really hate it, and I was kind of ready to really dismiss this record in this episode. It's not going to happen.
I don't know when I checked it out. I mean, I had definitely digested the first seven pretty readily,
Yeah.
and I had heard Brave New World, and I maybe even one or two of the other, maybe Dance of Death by that point too.
Yeah.
Not sure, but I mean, the first thing I noticed about it is the vocal change for
Yeah.
Bruce. And I was not a fan of that. And it's a weird production job.
Mm.
It's like there's nothing wrong with it, but it has this kind of like thuddy sound to it. And I think it's a combination of a couple things, but I really didn't enjoy it very much. And eventually I grew to like pretty much all the songs in varying degrees.
Mm.
It's just it's obviously, even if you like this album, you can't deny that there's a drop in quality and synergy and everything else from the previous ones.
It's so different to like Seventh Son. It's obviously a conscious decision to move away from that and go back to basics and all that. I wonder why they did that.
Well, I mean, so the impression now that I have,
Mm.
is you know, obviously Adrian's left. They brought in Yannick Gers on guitar for the first time, and he was in Bruce's solo band for the Tattooed Millionaire album,
Right.
which is kind of, I think it's a very Americanized album. Um, it sounds very LA, and it was released in 89, and it sounds like other sort of records that were coming out at that time, in a lot of ways. And also I always think of Skid Row, the band, in this time, because they were popular with kids I knew around, 89, 90, 91. um, and they were a really big charting band, even though they're from the East Coast. I think they really like exemplify the sort of the American hard rock
Right.
sound of the time. um and I kind of think like Tattoo Millionaire is in that zone.
Mm.
It's almost a little underwhelming as a solo album because you think he would take more chances on it, but I think
Mm.
it really, like, the chance he's taking is just doing like a hard rock album, but
Right.
because it's 1989, it sounds very specifically Sunset Strip. And I feel that kind of carried over into this album a little bit. I mean, obviously, so one of the things, they Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter was recorded with the Bruce Dickinson band originally,
Right.
and was in the Nightmare on Elm Street 5
Mm.
soundtrack,
Mm.
as a solo version, and so they took it over here, which is an unusual move in and of itself. Uh, not
Mm.
using a Maiden song, but I think that sort of, like, that's the vibe, right? They were trying. I think they're trying to Americanize the band. Um,
Mm.
Last two albums didn't do as well in America. Seventh Son, I think particularly, didn't really like have a big impact here, although it was like something like top 10, maybe number one in the UK.
Mm.
But I think especially at the time, when you're talking like, just gross sales and sort of market dominance,
Right.
United States is the place you want to be. um, and so I think like a lot of the decisions on this album are actually to Americanize it, and specifically in ways that, like, coordinate to the hard rock bands of the time, and also bands that had sort of been like super accepted by America. And that's the story of Maiden
Mm.
over these last two albums, and it like Bruce's vocal change, sort of like the simplification of a lot of the songs, is sort of like getting rid of a lot of the Maiden trademarks,
Yeah.
like the gallop and sort of like the Steve Harris bass intro.
Right.
And it's funny because, like, it's still Maiden. Like, it never, some bands, like, when they have like a sellout album, and I don't think this is really a sellout album, but you think of like that Raven album,
Mm-mm.
with
Yeah.
the horns on it and stuff.
Yeah.
um I mean, that, it's like unrecognizable to, Crash Bang Wallop or
Yeah.
Wiped Out or something like that. And this isn't that, but it's almost like it's enough Maiden for the Maiden diehards of the time.
Yeah.
But then, like, if you heard Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter on the radio and you didn't know about Maiden, or maybe you weren't that crazy about them, you might hear it, you might like it, you might not realize it's Iron Maiden until it is. So it's like this weird middle area where it feels like they're trying to retreat from who they are a little bit, um, to maybe get a little more market, a little more of the market,
Yeah.
I
It's
guess.
like a really immediate and accessible album. I mean, it's every song is pretty catchy. Um, one or two listens, and you pretty much understood what's going on with the record. Um,
Yeah,
and actually, this
feels
this has been a
it,
bit
it
of
just feels like they put themselves in a box a little bit.
mm, mm, mm. you know, I'm not drinking at the moment. I'm off the beer, but this was a struggle to listen to this record without wanting to kind of go and get a six pack, because it's a real like feel good, upbeat, album. It's a really enjoyable listen. It's a fun record.
They said that they were going for a more immediate street level album, and
Mm,
when we did the Seventh Son episode, we did talk about how there was like this air of, it seems like, disappointment in the band
mm,
that they didn't, you know, Operation Mindcrime was
yeah,
the proggy metal album of
right.
that year, and Seventh Son was sort of number two
Yeah,
to that. And I feel like this is almost like a reaction, like they kind of throwing up their hands, like, well, we can't go any further in that direction, which of course is ridiculous because now they make these really sprawling long proggy albums all the time.
yeah.
um but it feels that way, and it does feel like one of the things about the album is they were like, well, we banged it out really quick, and we did it at Steve's house.
Yeah, the
This is the
barnyard.
first one recorded in the barn, and I believe they used the Rolling Stones mobile unit,
Wow.
which is the famous sort of production studio
Yeah.
that's built into a truck. It's used for a lot of live albums, but since Martin Birch is producing here, it's of note that that was used on Machine Head,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Deep Purple, and
Yeah.
you can see pictures of them in the truck in the layout for that. Um, and so this, maybe that contributes a little bit to the sound of it as well.
Hmm.
That sort of like, it's like a little bit boxy or something. It just,
It just, yeah, I can't put a finger on it. I mean,
I think it's, so the guitar sound is a change.
mm,
It it and part of that has to be because it's Yannick Gers and Dave Murray, and so even though the guitar sound isn't as jarring as the Blaze albums that we've already talked about,
mm,
it is still now two guys playing Stratocasters. Martin Birch has a lot of experience making, I mean, Strats sound good, but they have a distinct sound. He has a lot of experience of making them sound full, produced three Rainbow albums and seven Deep Purple albums, and
yeah.
all which is, Blackmore is a Strat guy. So it never sounds as like empty as those Blaze albums, but there is a change in the texture of those guitars.
Mm, mm,
um,
mm.
and I think that's part of it. um, and I think it's also maybe just modern, at the time, new equipment. So they sound a little different, a little bit, yeah, like boxy or something.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I don't dislike it, but it is very, very different. I don't know. I
And
just
then
looking at the records that we just looked at. Like, again, doesn't really compare. This album doesn't compare to like any of those records that we just showed from the same year.
yeah, it's an odd sound, man. It's it almost sounds like they're trying to make it sound less polished
Mm-mm.
than it is. Also, this is 1990, and so guitar sounds are changing a lot at
Right.
this time. You're going from like, sort of like the very polished kind of, often like with modulated, chorus or flange
Mm.
effects and reverb on guitars all through the 80s, and all, especially with heavy rock, and going to back to more like direct raw guitar sounds, but also like people are more interested in like sort of chunkiness and lower end
Mm-mm.
sounds. And so I don't know, 1990 is like a weird pivot point anyway,
Mm.
because it's kind of between those two eras.
Mm-mm.
And so, yeah, I don't know, I think it's just maybe like an odd time, and the band is in a really odd place, and you get, there's nothing like wrong with it, but it sounds a little more hollow than than I'm used to Maiden guitar sounding. And
Not
then
much.
paired with the drums, which I think are just back to that more, right off the floor sound, although they're in like a barn. Um, and so yeah, I don't know, the sound reflection and everything in there may not be as like dialed in and mathematically correct as a normal studio, which shouldn't really matter, and doesn't really matter. But I think those two things together just kind of like roughs it up a little bit, adds a little sand, you might say.
Not much
Uh,
depth to it, right? There's not a lot kind of going on under the surface. Not much to discover, you know. I was not always.
yeah, and I think that's by design. I mean, it must be by design,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's what this is supposed to be.
yeah.
Um, but I think that also extends to the compositions, and that's I like this album, but that's like the thing that I noticed that sort of makes it not as great, um, is there's not much going on under the surface.
But
There's actually like a lot less sort of interplay going
yeah,
on. And I
yeah.
think
Mm,
again by design, because they're trying to Americanize a little bit, and they're trying to uh, uncomplicate a band
mm,
that
mm.
sort of does their best, when they're complicating a little bit.
Yeah, and no songs over 6 minutes. There's only one over 5 minutes, right?
Yes, that feels like such a conscious move.
Yeah, 43 minutes long.
Which is, I guess that makes sense, but it's weird. It feels shorter.
It does. I've been playing it a lot, and it's just it's over before you know. It's like, oh god, side one's done.
Let me put it this way: this is 1 minute shorter than Seventh Son.
Hmm.
But Seventh Son, you feel like you've really gone on a ride,
Yeah.
and I feel like, yeah, no,
Hmm.
I feel like most of the time anybody's listening to this album, it's almost it's sad because like it's not a bad album, but you have to sit there and just at some point you think like what went wrong on this record? Like why is the drop in quality so big?
I know. It's like if there's just like another band as a standalone album, but just you can't help but compare it to what's come before. So
Is that like okay? If this was like the second Fates Warning album, or the first, after that, before they became the Fates Warning that we really know,
yeah,
when they still were sort of just a
mm,
U.S. heavy metal band, you'd be like, oh, yeah, that's a good one. You should pick that up.
yeah.
Um, in my mind, I feel like this would have been great as an EP, like a
Mm,
4 to 6 song 12-inch, but I think the band would have seen that as a showing of weakness, in part because this is. Can you hear the dog bark in the background? Yeah,
again.
yeah, he's huge. He's a German Shepherd. Um, he's a maniac in the morning. Um, uh,
Bring him
one
on.
of the
Bring him on. What does he think?
yeah, right. Um, so I feel like if they had come out with an EP at this time, people would have been like, "Oh, they lost Adrian, and now they can't even complete a full album." I think it would have been perceived very badly, like Maiden's run out of ideas. But then I feel like, well, I guess this album was received like okay at the time because it did well commercially, but
Mm-mm-mm.
I don't think there was any overwhelming positive feeling about it either.
Yeah, it's funny, Chris, because even on like you know the Blaze albums and some of the later albums, I could always find like a lot to say about like each individual song. There's something to talk about. Whereas with with these songs, I'm kind of struggling with what to say about them because
It's just
It's just like,
insubstantial, right?
yeah, but I like them though. That's the
That
thing, I like them, but there's not really much to explore, and it's just a good hard rock song, you know, a good rocker, a good you know.
which is, I think, I mean, that is sort of, that's the goal, right? Like they kind of just wanted to make a party record.
Yeah, as I said, you know, I was really wanted to grab a six pack and when I was listening to this record because it's a fun record. Uh, but yeah, not much to discover, not much to explore, not much of a journey. So yeah,
Yeah. Um, you want to try and take apart these songs?
yeah, come on, man, let's do it, let's do it. Gotta say, I love the Tailgunner. I love it.
It's a good kickoff song.
It is that little kind of bass intro, nice pace.
I like that it has that sort of upbeat, the major key melodic
Mm.
change thing, because that's something that gets more rare in this period of pretty much all through the 90s, really.
I've
Um,
seen and heard people complain about the chorus because it's so understated. Like the verses are really, you know, the chorus is like the opposite of the verses, right? So it's like he's just almost like speaking the name of the song. But I like it. I think it works quite well.
I make my problem with this song.
Mm.
Well, okay, so if you're gonna be more street level and more immediate, I just like you can't write songs about like World War I airplanes anymore. You know, that takes me out of it for sure. Um, and I don't know, climb into the sky, never wonder why, Tailgunner. Like it's a I get what he's trying to do, I get it, but dude, compare that to Aces High. Yeah,
I
you
know, yeah.
can't, and also you can't start the album with a song about, you know, uh warfare in the air and not have it compared to Aces High.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true.
It's a really good song, but it's immediately something to bump into.
Yeah, I kind of like there's like that little bit of a kind of transition that's kind of almost like Rothschild a little bit, Rothschild a little kind of little bit, but like
Yeah.
it's got those like kind of almost Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath guitar harmonies in the background of that. That's really as much as I could discover with that song, but it's a good song. It's a pretty good opener.
It's immediate. It sort of serves the purpose, like I outlined earlier, where it's still enough Maiden that it's Maiden, but that it also is not too not too progressive. Um, it also starts maybe the problem of this is the first album where there's parts and songs where I feel like there's just not a lot of connective tissue between them.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Um, it's a little bit stiff, I guess I would say,
Yeah,
but still pretty good song.
it's good. I mean, yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah, that's a
All right.
yeah. Holy Smoke, that was a single, right? Holy Smoke with the video and
Yeah,
everything. ACDC, hard rock and roll.
I could see that.
Mm.
I it's so yeah, this one I think of again Skid Row. I think of a lot of these songs remind me a little bit of Warrant.
Mm.
Not Cherry Pie, but some of the other material, you know, a little bit. Cherry Pie is kind of, I mean, the song that uh they're famous for, but a lot of the other stuff was harder rocking.
Yeah,
I don't know, even some of the stuff like Cinderella, like we were talking about,
mm-mm-mm.
like I it just it kind of hits on that vibe, but it still sounds like Maiden. You know, it's not a total like gimmick change, but it sounds like they're engaging a little more with that commercial sound.
Right.
Sounds like it could be on Tattooed Millionaire almost, although it's a little bit harder edged.
Yeah.
And I would say I just I hate when Bruce Dickinson is like cursing. It always sounds really forced. Like it just sounds phony. Um I think this song is really catchy. I think
It
it's
is.
like a
Oh
fun
man,
song.
I've had that
Um
in my head like all week. Can't get rid of it.
It's it's like it's so obviously commercial.
Mm-mm.
You know, like even Can I Play with Madness, which is like the one of the big commercial songs,
Mm-hmm.
and Wasted Years kind of have the Maiden gallop. And when
Yeah,
you take that away too, it's like is very obviously uh designed to be what it is.
yeah.
So I don't know. It's like again, this is a good song, but also like it's hard for me to listen to it and not be like, hey, yeah, it's good, but so I do like this song.
Me too.
Um
It's
all
nice.
right.
I mean, it's a pleasant hard rock song. You know,
Yeah.
catchy. Good lyrics too, right? Like anti-organized religion. Like, I mean,
I appreciate that.
mm,
Again, I hate I Bruce cursing. It's like hearing like Bart Simpson say fuck or something. Like it's just like what? Um and I also like I hate the flies around shit, bees around
ah,
honey metaphor. I
yeah,
just
yeah,
it's
yeah,
so like I'm gonna be honest, it's just gross. It's just gross.
yeah. Not pleasant. Not pleasant imagery.
Yeah, I know Bruce wants to shock you to make you see the truth about this organized religion. But yeah, it's a little much.
Yeah,
Um, but you know, still pretty good song.
good song, fun song. So, title track,
Yeah,
track 3.
weird tune.
Take the pace down a little bit.
Yeah,
Slow opening, but it gets going pretty quickly, and then it picks up the tempo, and it's fun and it's a good song. But it's kind of a weird title track.
I think so I think the keyboard thing that's sort of doubling those guitars,
Yeah.
it's like a little bit annoying. Um I again I actually like this song, but the things that like bug me about it exist, and that's one. Um it sort of like has a darker um tint to it. You know,
Hmm.
it's a big mood shift, and
Yeah.
you can kind of compare it to something like Children of the Damned a bit, but what I also think of is like some of the darker hard rock songs at that time.
Mm-mm.
Um, and Fear of the Dark, which we'll talk about soon, is more of that, but this is sort of like when that first rears its head. And like I think about a band like Aerosmith actually, who went from, and I think Aerosmith Pump came out in 89,
Okay.
but it might be 90. And the biggest hit off that was Janie's Got a Gun.
Mm.
And these guys are going from Dude Looks Like a Lady and Love in an Elevator to Janie's Got a Gun. And that's like, that's, I mean, you know, that's a very dark sounding song, like just the chords and the melodies. And this kind of like falls into that same camp in a way for me.
Yeah.
Um, Trying to think of some others, you know, actually Warrant Uncle Tom's Cabin, which I think is actually a year or two after this, but I'm not exactly sure. Um, a good one, Skid Row, 18 and Life to Go.
Mm.
This actually follows somewhat of a similar pattern in the song. I really do. Skid Row was like one of the bands that I knew most at this time, 89, 90, just
Huh?
because of what was on the radio and kids in my school. Um, and so yeah, this was one where I thought of that a good bit. So it kind of like to me has that flavor.
Mm.
What about you?
I don't know. I just, like I said, not much to explore. It's just a good song. Like it's not. It's just there. I enjoy listening to it, and I've got really no complaints about it.
Yeah, it's
You know.
like
It's like,
I
mm,
mean like what it just again it's like a little bit insubstantial in a
yes.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I want to take a look at the credits here. So this is the first solo Steve Harris credit, which maybe
That's right.
also because the first two are Harris Dickinson. And like one thing, well, one maybe problem about this album is there's no, well, so they're down a member,
Yeah.
although that uh Adrian has a song that's contributed deep in the album that we're
Yes.
not at yet, but there's no Yannick contributions. I think I don't think there's any solo Dickinson contributions. He
Oh.
contributes what I presume are lyrics to a lot of the songs. Am I
Bring Your
missing?
Daughter.
Oh, Bring a Daughter to the Slaughter. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that almost doesn't count because he didn't write that for this album.
Right.
He, that was pulled over from another project.
Yeah.
Which to me sort of says that like they're spread a little thin songwriting. There's like Steve is on every song except that one, and Books in You, I think, as a songwriter.
Actually, the next song is not Public Enema #1.
Oh yeah, Murray Dickinson. Now, how about that? That's a weird credit. I knew there was 2 Dave Murray songs, but I was thinking they were both Murray Harris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talking of Public Enema #1, I think this is my least favorite Iron Maiden song title.
It's a bad title. It's so forced. It's so stupid.
It's terrible, yeah. But it's not a bad song. It's a decent song.
I like that little guitar lick.
Rocker.
Yeah.
Not super keen on the chorus.
It gets repetitive, and this one keeps with the darkness thing.
Yeah.
That sort of like, I guess that's what they really mean by street level. When they say street level, I think Paul Di'Anno era, but I think what it really means is a Sunset Strip, that street in particular.
I mean, Public Enema #1 is like real, like Twisted Sister. I don't know. It's not.
Yeah, I get that for sure. It's like there's no. I mean, I get this is post Appetite for Destruction, and this doesn't really read as Guns N' Roses to me, but it might read as British guys who came up in a different era, kind of trying to like find their way to that kind of like slightly like middle finger rock, as I sometimes refer to it. And especially with a title like that, just like it's meant to shock you, but it's not very shocking to me.
No.
To maybe a lesser extent, Motley Crue also.
Something like that. Yeah.
I think the Bob Rock record would have been out at this point. It seemed that's 89 or 90. I always forget. Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's still Maiden-y. It's not a total sellout, but it does seem like it's informed by those things because that's what's popular.
Yeah. Fate's Warning.
This is another one, just dark LA heavy metal flavor.
I really like the intro, the guitar, like the intro. It's pretty cool.
It's not a bad song, but maybe
hefty.
One of the least memorable. I think if it had a different title, it would almost be way more forgotten because it's remembered for having the title of a band at the time, which they claim it has nothing to do. I don't see how it would have anything to do with them, but and this is this is the Murray Harris song.
Murray Harris, yeah.
2 Dave Murray credits on this album. That is unusual. But I think that shows you how much they were pressed for material at this time.
It's got a bit of a bite to it. It's quite heavy actually. Good twin.
Yeah, it's a little. It has that sort of a hard rock swagger.
Yeah. All right.
It's weird. It's weird that they don't have Yannick Gers writing anything. Why didn't they just ask it? Like, why didn't they just get one song from him, you know?
Yeah.
Because later on, he really does start to produce a lot for the band. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to side 2 then.
The Assassin, good song title. Awful chorus, especially that "Better Watch Out" thing.
I kind
Really
of like
annoying.
this one.
It could be the worst song on the album.
Oh, I kind of like this one a fair bit. It's, I mean, well, two things. One, I put this in my the we've talked about this before. My fantasy set of Iron Maiden songs that they never play, that they've never played,
This
or
is
that
one
they
of them.
never play. Because in my set, I thought that it would be a good costume change for Bruce to come out in like tactical gear, you know, looking like he's in some kind of you know assassin movie. Um, I like those sort of dark hanging chords that build up
Mm-mm.
that tension. I don't think they really pay off the tension with the chorus. Um, and it's kind of like, I guess one of the problems with this album is that they went from writing these like conceptual songs that were based on history or weird fiction
Yeah.
or like arcane stuff from the past, and a lot of them really, it wasn't like overly evident what they were about, and then you get to this album and it's just like, well, I've written a song about an assassin, it's called The Assassin, or I've written a song about the guy in the plane who sits in the gunner's chair, it's called Tailgunner. And it's just like,
Uh,
it just doesn't feel like the same amount of effort is going in. And again, I understand that they're trying to keep it more relatable, but then like it's like 12-year-old boys are buying this mostly, like what does being an assassin have to relate to that? Like if you want it to be street level, just write songs about being bad.
yeah.
That's what everybody else is doing. And if want to be yourself, then write these songs, but write them just a little more nuanced, I guess. Um, I like this song though.
Yeah, I thought that there was a little bit of a throwback to Seventh Son in a couple of the parts in it.
There's actually a lot of riffs on here that I think would work on Seventh Son a
Mm,
good bit. Um, but they're played kind of stiff.
yeah,
And then they just lead into other parts that are also kind of stiff.
right.
But you could hear something like this on Seventh Son, but I would expect it like in the middle of a much more proggy progression. Like a long instrumental section, you might hear that ba da da ba da da.
That's it, yeah.
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. But Run Silent, Run Deep, again, I thought had a bit of a power slave. I thought that could have come off a power slave.
I think it could. Again, it's like stiff, almost a little slow,
Yeah.
and I don't know if submarines are ever cool in a Maiden song. I don't even know if they could have pulled off submarines on Power Slave. It's such a weird fit for the band, even like as a band that is fantasy based. It's just strange.
Yeah.
It's like where's the relatable thread in this? Like, I don't know. It just doesn't sound like Bruce is really even trying to sell it. Like he doesn't even sound interested in this song. I think it's just no. This is his lyrics too.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't sound that interested in them. Whereas like I don't know, like 2 minutes to midnight, like he sounds like super invested in that. Or Alexander the Great, or any of those other songs. So I don't know. It just kind of hangs there, and you're like, all the pieces are here, but something is missing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I like this. I think I
But
like every song on the record.
exactly, this is the thing. You see, well, some of these albums that we've been doing recently, it's been like a real deep listen and like diving deep and discovering all this stuff and like taking notes and like, but this is like, oh yeah, that was a good song. I like that. I enjoyed it. And then but nothing
If some
really.
of these songs popped up on A Matter of Life and Death, I would probably love them because, well, one, they'd be so short, but two, that it would feel more interesting that they're doing this. But it just, as soon as you have a context for what's going on, it just it's such a boring alternative to everything that's come before.
Yeah. Hooks in You. This was a song that Adrian Smith was involved with, right?
Yeah, this is an Adrian Bruce
Yeah.
composition. I'm not sure if it was written for Maiden or what. I don't know how it ended up here. Um,
Again, it's so catchy, man. I mean, the saucy lyrics, though, I hate the lyrics, but it's
the
so
lyrics are not cool. It's just, again, like, Bruce has like a good zone
catchy.
that always works, and he's really learned that since he came back to the band.
Mm,
But this, especially like S&M in 1990, I feel like was a lot more shocking. Like now it's just like a
mm.
accepted part of, like, like millennials and Zoomers are all like,
I
hardcore
actually
S&M
find
freaks.
I'm
but
just kind of
but
cringing a little bit and kind of blushing a little bit. It's just so like,
it's just so embarrassing. It's like hearing like a dirty joke by,
yeah. But you know what though? This song reminds me of Armed and Dangerous, Michael Schenker group.
oh yeah, okay. Yeah, especially that chorus
Yeah,
just has like a very yeah, it has that sort of that commercial edge.
yeah,
And I like the intro to the song.
yeah.
It does, it feels like Adrian might have written it to be a bit faster,
Mm,
and then it seems like they probably brought it down to a tempo that they thought was more radio friendly, which
mm,
kind of runs all through this album. There's like a lot of stuff where it just feels like they're not playing it the way you would expect Maiden to play it.
right.
Um,
But good song. Like,
yeah, it's cool.
yeah. Do we not want to talk about Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter? Everyone knows this song.
Well, maybe to you, but outside of, I don't think it's as well known as it might seem.
Sorry.
It doesn't get played on the radio much. That
Mm-mm.
it's not on the band's tours. Um, it's sort of a guilty pleasure for me because I know it's sort of like, in a way, I know it's the worst song on the record, but I like. And I was talking to one of the fans, who was saying that it should have been a Wasp song, and I agree. Blackie could sing this
Mm,
song really well, and it
yeah.
would fit in on those first couple of Wasp albums really well, and it has that sort of like ridiculous shock rock feel to it. um I really like those hanging sort of
Mm.
clean strummed chords that happen while the bass is thumping along there. um like, I think that's a really interesting aspect of the song. The chorus is kind of more boring than that, but I do kind of I enjoy like the way the song builds up, and it technically makes sense as a hit song,
Mm.
especially for the time. Um, it's kind of regrettable as a Maiden song. Um,
I
I mean,
remember
the
it.
the
Mm,
message is obviously
mm.
like it's stupid, and it's also, it's just like what is the song even about, like really, what is this song? It's so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
um
Well, actually, I think this was the song that like made me not go back and check the albums that I'd missed in real time. Because I stopped following Iron Maiden, right?
yeah, well, I'm sure if you hadn't heard them in 5 or 6 years and then you heard this, you'd just be
Yes.
like, oh, these guys are assholes.
Well, yeah, and I was like, well, I'm kind of glad that I just didn't. I kind of stopped following them. I was like, oh god, this is terrible. This
I
is
think this song is the best version of this song. The version that's on the Nightmare on Elm Street 5
Mm,
soundtrack, I think, is probably a little worse.
right.
Um, all right, this sucks for all of you movie fans out there. Um,
Oh.
Nightmare on Elm Street 5 is sort of the No Prayer for the Dying of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, where it's like there's now like that series had become so popular, and it was trying to get back to a darker, more street level edge in that particular installment. And I think at the time it was received in a lot of ways similarly, where it was like it didn't really hit the same.
Mm-mm.
And so I think it's actually funny that this song has an association with that movie, because it has this sort of same level, in a very different way, forced to darkness.
Yeah.
And also it has this kind of like blue tint over like a lot of the film. And so yeah, I don't know, it's worth noting, I think.
Mm.
Well, I don't know, that's probably more than anyone needs to say about Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter.
Beautiful. Mother Russia. What a funny little song. Like that. What's that all about? It's not a sea shanty. It's like a kind of Russian, like Cossack
Yeah,
dance, slowed down. I don't know. Like what's that? And it always reminds me of Sisters of Mercy, because they have that song Mother Russia too, right?
yeah.
That always brings to mind.
They have a better Mother Russia, I would
I,
say.
thanks for saying that. I think so. I think so too.
Um, this song just sounds like it was meant to be longer. I mean, it sounds like it was meant to be the epic, and they forced themselves to cut it down, and so it just feels like the drumming is so stiff, and they don't want to do anything more complex, because they're afraid of being complex now, because maybe they feel that is hurting the band's commercial fortunes. And
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it feels like if they had done this song 5 years earlier, there'd be a lot more to talk about, but instead we're just sort of stuck with this like odd little number.
I know. Yeah, absolutely right. I think it was meant to be like a lengthy epic, and it just got dumbed down and shortened, and that's what we're left with. It's a weird, weird song to close with, too. So,
Well, if this had been a traditional Maiden album, I think it would be the one that you would close with.
mm,
But it doesn't. It's almost like hearing like a radio edit of,
mm,
like a song like Alexander, or Seven Son, like where they would have like, I don't there's not radio edits of any of those songs, but it's like if you're gonna make a radio edit, you would cut out all the progressive bits, and you just sort of mash together a more standard form of the song,
yeah,
and that's what it feels like. It feels like it should be at least 9 minutes long, and
yeah,
it's like barely six. And
yeah.
um yeah, it's okay, but it doesn't really work. It probably works less because a lot of these songs are very short and direct, and you're just like, oh, it was short and direct. But
Mm,
this is one where you can feel that it was obviously somewhere, should have been more.
yeah. And that's it.
I don't hate it.
Me neither. Me neither. Me neither, man. You know, I don't hate anything about this album. Like I said, it's been a really different listening experience, this album, compared to some of the others we've been doing.
It's a really strange pivot album, um, but it really outlines that like the winning streak of the 80s is over, and we're now in a very fraught and difficult time, the 90s,
Yeah,
most of which we've already covered, but
got one more
we've got one more.
next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your rating for this one?
Oh my god, this is so tough. This is just such a unique thing. Hasn't happened before with me. Like, it's just I've just enjoyed listening to this record like the past 2 weeks. I played it probably more than a lot of the other records that I wasn't quite as familiar with, but in a totally different way. It's not like, sitting down and like with the headphones on. It's just like, this is a fun album. I'll put it on again and it's over in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of tough. It's like, I've not really anything bad to say about it, but I've not really got any like super enthusiastic things to say about it either. So it's just like, just a good, fun, hard rock album. Like an AC/DC album from like one of the sort of lesser AC/DC albums, 6.5? I don't know. I don't know. 6.5, 7. Just, it's an enjoyable album. I like listening to it. What's wrong with that,
So then give it the rating that shows that you enjoy it.
I did 7.
Okay, 7.
And
I also I give it a 7 as well.
Good.
The dog gives it a 6.
Okay, yeah.
But as you can hear, the dog is very irritable in the morning. So
very
that's
kind
probably
of
why.
very weird experience. This album. It's kind of like not put me off, but it's kind of like it's just so different to what's come before.
It's hard to listen to the songs and just listen to the songs. You almost like you're forced to listen to the songs and try and analyze what's missing. And that, because I came to this album later after I'd heard the 80s material, that has always been my experience with this. Even when I put this album on, I feel like today it's No Prayer for the Dying. That's my experience. I'm always listening. I'm like, what the fuck, man? What is missing?
But we didn't really say anything bad about it, like we have, with some of the other albums where we've really like torn them apart. We've not really said anything bad about it. Not really.
There's nothing as ragged as like the middle portion of X Factor. There's nothing as monotonous as all of A Matter of Life and Death.
You really didn't like that one, did you?
That is the one that has stuck out to me because some of these albums I really reevaluated over the course of our journey here.
Yeah.
And I gave that one the same shake, but that one is sort of a landmark to me of what happens when I don't know, when Maiden just takes a big swing, but just sort of doesn't really do much. I mean, we'll see where it lands on my list.
On your spreadsheet.
Yeah, but I'm telling you now, it's the one I've rated the lowest out of all the albums we discussed.
It is, yeah. All right, that was fun. Fun album, fun episode. Next time, will it be as fun? Wait and see. Tune in next time when it will be the final episode. Technically, the final episode. Fear of the Dark, episode 16.
Yeah.
That'll be the last one. There might be a special bonus episode. So stay tuned. All right, Chris, thanks for talking to me. Until next time, stay healthy and stay clean.